Hey Will, this is Shravan. This is my demo for Omega Race, the final project. It's not sounding like a movie, right? So I'm doing this on localhost right now, but just right off the bat, I tested this on Hamachi, like we talked about, and I do have a part in my code where if you want to test it on two computers, this is how I did it using Hamachi. So this address here would be the Hamachi address on the server. My client just does a normal discover local peers and then gets the server message going. And so we'll just play 2 rounds. I'll walk you through what's happening, and after that I'll try to tell you a little bit about my architecture as best I can. I guess most of the details will probably be inside the document that I've attached with this, but yeah, so as soon as this thing loads up. So, all right, so here we go. See, we start off in the lobby. I tried doing a little bit of, fancy stuff here, but there's only so much you can do with this font. So, H and J, you can see that we're here, and then when I press space in the server, we're in. So, you can see right off the bat the ship's moving, missiles, laying mines, and you can see all those things are happening right there. And I already collided. Wow, almost missed it. Alright, so in these 2 rounds, what I'm going to do is have one player win each. So you can see right off the bat that missiles are, whoa, that was fast. Alright, so the missiles are working, the mines are working, the fences were lighting up the way they should. You can see that we're back in the lobby. So you can see here that we have the IP addresses going server client, and here we are again. So just to give this a little bit of so here, and this time client win. You can see down here that there's a proper party going on in the console, and that's because I needed to do a lot of stuff to make sure I was in sync. There is a small bug here. I'll tell you about it once we're done recording the video. So again, this was, and if I continue, you can see that we're again back in the lobby. Um, and yeah, so that's it. Let me just see if there's anything else. Just to sort of do it one more time. Yeah, so you can see that the ships are moving, the fences are lighting up in both places, the sounds are playing in both places, um, and yeah, so stuff like that. The score is being updated. So the way that I approached this thing was the first thing I did was I refactored the game into a state pattern because that was one thing that was really bugging me about this. So it's now in 5 separate states uh, right here. So like overall architecturally, the one thing that I wanted to mention here was that in my I have a bunch of data messages going on, but the one thing that I thought was inevitable was the fact that there's a lot of type checking going on, like the different types of messages we receive and firing off the functions to process them in the right way. So the design choice that I made was that the client sends only network messages, so it generates and sends only its input straight to the server. The server processes only player input, so both the clients and its own, and it sends most of, creates a bunch of messages and sends it back to the client. So the client's output queue is doing the heavy lifting, um, and processing all the different sort of messages that it gets from the server. The server simply, based on the input messages it receives from the client, goes ahead and uh, goes ahead and sends all the other messages. So creates and sends all the other messages at the right point and sends them across. So the server does just this. It processes an input message, and then based on that, it does everything that it needs to do locally. But then at the, at the right moments, it creates these different bunch of messages and it sends it back to the client. So if I just look at if I just pull up the gameplay state on my server, you can see that after we process both the queues, but once everything is done, we have to send a player info message back to the client, and this is how we're doing ship movement. So it's the raw values for the sprites. That, like I said, there's no physics happening on the client. There's a bunch of different things that I'm doing to make sure that no physics happens on the client. That includes, missile IDs and mine IDs and ship IDs, and a lot of stuff. But basically, that was the biggest thing. You saw that based on in terms of milestones, we had the lobby, we had the ships moving, the missiles and mines firing, and of course, everything is data driven. If I pull up the client, because there's a couple of things I wanted to show you just to show what's happening. By the way, there's a my client and my server, and these are the two that actually manage connections. So whenever I get a message, I just shove it onto my output queue. I know that it's from my server. So this in the output queue, like I said, is where the actual processing and heavy lifting is happening. You can see the different types of messages I have. And all the code is in the game manager. So you just call the appropriate message and it goes and it fires it. Now, to maintain or at least have some sort of sync, one thing that I needed to do was in my missiles and my mines, I gave the missile IDs, so static IDs over here, did the same thing for the mine, and I also reset them when a game cycle is done so that we, again, trying to be as much in sync as possible. It's of course not always possible, and if we, miss a couple of packets, then bad things happen. That's a bug in this game that, is difficult to go for. Another thing that I have is I have dictionaries. So this is actually where my missiles, this is how I destroy missiles and mines on my clients. Actually, when I get a missile fired message, I create those missiles on my client and I destroy them when I get a missile destroyed message, and the same thing for the mine. So if I go back to my output queue and once you see a missile fired message, um, first I figure out which player it is, then I actually create the missile here, and so in my, like I said, in my missile, there's not, and I add it to the dictionary here. So like in my missile now, there's no physics happening, so there's no body either. So this is part of how I simulate the missile firing, and the only thing that I'm doing here is just simply I have the direction, I have the X and Y. I just make it go forward because I know that the missile is going to travel in the same in a straight line. So with the mine, it's even simpler. I just remove this completely. We know that the mines explode on a timer, so if a player collides with it first, I destroy a mine using a message. Otherwise, the mine just naturally gets destroyed, and we don't need to create a message for that. So there'll be a lot more details in the document that I send across with this, but this was a basic demo just to show that, yeah, everything is working more or less close to the original. Um, One thing is I mentioned that there's a bug, and I think that's because sometimes on the server, and I'm not sure because a few people mentioned this, it's part of the source code maybe that sometimes the server fires more missiles than it's supposed to. So on the server side, you actually have more missiles that are created, but you guard against that on the client side, and then they both sort of go out of sync. And once that happens, the client's no longer it's no longer able to see missiles coming in from the server. So that's one thing there. That's a bug, and I'll have that mentioned in my report. But other than that, um, I think you saw everything. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else that I have to show specifically. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in AI. Cheers.